Roland,
Yeah.
season 4, episode 1.
Yeah.
I got to talk about my wedding anniversary, but that is not the only anniversary we have going on this year.
Boy, year of anniversaries. That's right. 20 years in the business.
20
here,
years.
Right?
That's a big deal.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks,
Yeah.
and appreciate all your help.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of a fun ride.
Sure.
You know, every business that makes it 20 years has a few pivotal points. And I think for us, producing the Brass Train Guidebook and the price guides was huge.
Yeah. Labor intensive is all I remember. But boy, these publications, and of course we had volume 1 of the price guide.
Right.
This is volume 2, just a phenomenal statistical book.
Yes.
But a lot has gone into these, which is
Right.
just absolutely incredible.
It was a year of very little sleep for both of us.
I remember. And you know, some of the great things about this publication is, you know, we look at this, and I believe this is like 704 pages of just incredible amount of information. We had like 23,000 models in here.
Right.
But you know, we had thought about at this time of even going to a pay site.
That was our original idea, actually, before we even produced these books. At that time, it seemed like producing that pay site was how we were going to do it.
Right.
But then we felt like the market wouldn't bear that.
Yeah.
And so we produced this, and all these years we have provided the Brass Guide site for free.
Right.
And how many photos do we have on there now?
Our photos is over 250,000 photos.
Right.
Over 31,000 different models. And it allows us to continually update that. So
Yes.
it's really been great for the industry.
So as much as we love an actual publication, it couldn't even come close to what we can do online. I mean, that amount of photos would I'd be bigger than the Encyclopedia Britannica. So nobody wants to lug that around to a train show.
That's right.
Speaking of, though, this is a great thing to have in your library. If you want one, we produced, I think, 3,000 of these.
Yeah.
We have 15 left.
Isn't that something?
So I kind of think even if the data doesn't interest you, there's some great articles in here with Reed Dennis and a nice one on the early Shays, TMS Shays. Yeah. Great thing to have in your library. If you don't have one, order up, because when they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what else do we have to look forward to today?
Well, also on today's show, we're going to talk about decoders, painting, interiors. Well, it seems like we got a variety of how-tos.
Lots of how-to.
So we're going to look forward to that. And of course,
I'm going to talk a little bit more, just reminisce some of the early days. I'm going to show you photos that I'm almost embarrassed to show, but it'll be kind of fun.
All right.
And then, of course, we got Kenichi Matsumoto and Fred Hill back, so that's a very informative segment. So,
all right. So let's get it started,
Another great episode.
All right, let's get it started with Scott Inman. Scott, we're now going to see about everything that's required before we go ahead and install the decoder and the speaker inside of the locomotive. So we have our Southern Pacific 060. Now you've done some pre-work ahead of time, which is, it actually came with a decoder already on it.
Yeah.
So don't be intimidated, right? If it already is in your loco, you can take that out. So tell us what you did.
Yeah, well, somebody else's work had come with the locomotive, and so we can see here there was a TCS regular DCC decoder. There was some wiring previously done. It was all of quality, using the heat shrink tubing and SIP pin connectors and so on and so forth. And the previous installer chose to use some of the original factory electronics. And so I just simply have removed those. It was a very simple process. And when we get to the installation on the chassis, we can talk more about some other parts that were left.
Okay.
But in this segment, what I think is healthy to do for the viewers is to show them how to bench test a sound decoder that has come right out of the package. Because it's good etiquette when you're doing this to make sure that you've got your decoder on the bench, you can test it with your DCC system, and it's always good to follow these instructions.
So keep the instructions.
Oh, always. Even after the dozens of these that I've done, I always like to have the instructions because every time you get a new decoder, something's a little different. Soundtracks changes the keep alive capacitor or something like that. It's always great to just have these at arm's length.
Okay. Now, I see something interesting. I see some double-sided tape here on our table. Why is that?
That's right. Well, you're going to notice a couple of things. The big one is that speakers come and they're magnetized. And guess what will pick up a speaker? Your soldering iron.
That's it.
So put a little double stick tape down for your parts and put them on there ahead of time before you start soldering, and your life is going to be made much easier.
Yeah. I appreciate that it's organized there, but also that's very logical in being able to work easily on all of these components.
Yeah, because it's actually going to save you time when you get to this phase of the actual installation.
Right.
If you've got it all pre-wired, you know that it works out of the package, then it's going to be much smoother in the long run.
Have you ever had any problems with installs?
Oh, have I?
So the instructions are important, right?
The instructions are critical.
All right.
And they're very nice because they have a lot of diagram style instructions, and they tell you the colors of the wires, which are extremely important. Because, for example, if you mix up a motor wire and put power directly into one of those, you could very easily escape the smoke, and the smoke doesn't go in very easy. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
You can bring it out, but you can't put it back in. So what we can do here is go ahead and show the folks. I have pretty much got the power hooked up to the black and the red. We're going to use this Digitrax Zephyr series throttle because it's an all-in-one.
Right.
It has this nice little control knob here, and we'll bring up the decoder when we're ready. But one thing about decoder wiring, always make sure you either have the decoder unplugged from the power source or the power source turned off. Okay. And I know the power source is turned off, so what I want to do is finish this bench test.
Okay.
Now, you'll notice in the instructions it talks about a common function, and that's always
blue wire, right?
color blue. Yeah. So this color blue will go to any lights or any auxiliary functions that you have.
Okay.
If we had a reverse headlight wire, we would also tag on the function, the other polarity of the light to this as well.
Okay.
So this is our headlight wire. We have it taped down here. What I've also done is gone ahead and taken the headlight wire and soldered it to one side of this resistor.
And you have your heat shrink tubing, right?
Yes.
Very important.
Very important. That's a very important step in this process. So you always want to make sure that you don't have any open connections because in a brass locomotive especially,
it touches.
You can touch something and boom, gone. And so what we're going to do here is just finish up this, and we'll show people at home how this looks.
Okay.
So on this other side, we already have the common side protected. So we'll just slide this on here, and we will take our tweezers like this, and this guy here, you get a little solder, bring him right down on here, there you go, just like that.
Takes very little to put it on there.
Very little. And with practice, you'll get down to where it's just easy as pie.
I like the double stick tape idea. I'm going to use it for other things. That's
Absolutely.
great.
You wouldn't believe how much faster it goes.
Yeah.
When I figured this out, it really made my
Saves
life
a little
lot
fingertips too.
That's right. Okay, so now we're just going to do a quick job on some of this. When you're doing this at home, you can be much more careful. Now, purple wires on a decoder always go to the speaker. And in my experience, the positive and negative is rather immaterial.
Okay.
So
we got our little sugar cube speaker there, right?
Yeah, this is the Soundtrax sugar cube speaker that we talked about in the last episode. Very nice, very inexpensive, good range.
Okay.
And we'll hear it in just a few minutes. So what we're going to do is, since our speaker is down on the tape, it won't move around when I get close with the soldering iron. And we're just going to go ahead and tin these 2 leads here. And with that rosin core solder.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, right now. So we're just going to bring the first one on, tack her there, done. Bring the second one in.
And again, it's purple, right?
Purple and purple. Tack it down, just like that. Perfect. Make sure, don't have any cold solder joints. That all seems to be good. All these connections, if you pull from both sides of the resistor, okay, that's good. Now, we're going to see our light come on in a second. And so now that all the wiring is done, we can tell that none of the other wires are touching.
Right.
You'll notice I haven't taken any of the sleeve off of it. So we'll go back over here. We'll turn our power source on.
See the board light up inside there, right? The little blue light.
Yeah, comes on the board. Every sound decoder from the factory, or every decoder in MRI standard, is address 3. So we'll go ahead and select number 3
CV3,
and grab it. So now if we power up, what we should see is our light come on, and there it is.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, brilliant effect. Yeah. Also, you can hear the dynamo, which is steam driven on a steam locomotive. So that's good. I have actually experienced before where I've received the wrong decoder in the package. Yeah. So it comes on with a 567 prime mover or something. Restart.
And you know that sound, when we had the bit with soundtracks, that's that sound of the dynamo right there.
That's right.
Yeah, you
that's
can hear
it.
it. There's nothing defective about it. That's the sound of it.
That's it. And, you know, you can just quickly test the whistle. There's the one from the factory. Test the bell. Get that in there. We pretty much have the decoder all wired up now. If you flop into reverse, you'll notice that it's directional for the headlight.
So it shuts off, right?
Right, it shuts off. But I think we've got it pretty well bench tested now. We know that there's going to be sound and that it's going to work.
You know, sometimes we get a locomotive. In fact, some of the recent ones, we have our E8 here from UTI. Now, it automatically comes with that 9-pin connector.
That's right.
Right?
So the manufacturers.
Yeah, so DCC ready, they call it. All right.
right.
So tell us what we have here then. How easy it is to go ahead and take care of these because of how they've actually started to build these now, right?
Absolutely. So Union Terminal Imports has made it very simple to install a Tsunami series sound decoder or any sound decoder with a 9-pin plug. All you have to do is take a little bit of this purple wrap off of this end of the 9-pin, unplug the factory-provided hardwiring,
right.
And then inside of your model, when you open it up, you will see that the lighting circuit from the factory is plugged in just straight to the DC board. All you have to do is swap it out for the DCC decoder. And Union Terminal also has provided a dummy box inside the locomotive that you simply unscrew and it accepts
wow.
this Railmaster Series DSM-8 high bass speaker. This speaker has 2 holes cast in on either end, and Union Terminal has provided those lugs.
Isn't that nice?
Right in the
Makes
model.
it so easy. You know, so if it comes DCC ready already, right, all you got to do is it's simply like almost a plug and play. It's pretty close.
Pretty much. Yeah. You just have to wire up the speaker to the decoder. That's really the only soldering there is, and a little bit of programming.
Okay. Now, on our next segment, what are we going to go ahead and do here?
Well, on the next segment, what we're going to look at is actually taking the decoder and installing it into the locomotive. So we're going to look at the fitment of the board, and we're going to look at the fitment of the speaker.
Okay.
We're also going to look at how the light will wire in. And as a special tease, we're going to talk...
Oh, you got a tip for us, do you?
Yeah, I sure do.
All right.
We're going to talk about these really, really nice micro connectors, and we'll also go over some of the applications of these and why there's so many different numbers of them.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that then.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It seemed our 20th anniversary would be a fun time to reminisce a little bit and share the story with you of how BrassTrains.com got started. Of course, we've had the chance to share some of those thoughts with you in the past, but today I wanted to go a little further down memory lane and even dig out some embarrassing photos. Who doesn't love that? Our very beginning of this business actually started when we moved from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to Florida, and me and my father actually started a carpet cleaning business together called Clean Pro. It was a franchise. You can see it in the picture. And that was our goal when we moved to Florida, was to be carpet cleaners. However, it wasn't as easy as we thought it would be to get started in a new area, and getting a business up and running proved to be challenging. So I was creatively trying to find additional ways to make a little income. And about this time, a little known website came to my attention. It was called eBay. Well, many people thought you'd be crazy to buy and sell with others across the country who you didn't even know, but I gave it a try. And I bought out a comic book shop here in Ocala, Florida. And you can see some photos of that. It wasn't a large comic book shop, but I started selling those on eBay in my spare time in a spare bedroom. Well, that was okay, and you can see the comics there, and that was kind of fun. But if you were sharp-eyed, you might have noticed in the background there an N-scale train layout. That was really my hobby, was model trains, and I'd built several layouts. They weren't spectacular by any means, but I had a lot of fun with them. And so one day, when we were going to a carpet cleaning job, I was reading the local paper, and I seen an ad for an incredibly large model train layout. Well, naturally, I thought this could be perfect to sell on eBay. So we went and we investigated, and the fellow that sold it to us, he was an ex-NASA employee, and he had us convinced this was the largest model railroad collection in the United States. So we fell hook, line, and sinker. My father took out a second mortgage on his home for $27,000, which was enormous to us at the time. And you can see in the photos that spectacular collection. And it's amazing we even made our money back. But it was a different time. There was a lot of Lionel trains there, and we did pretty well with those. And although maybe we only broke even in the end, I learned so much about model trains and what it would take to really be successful in the business. So we kept buying and selling little collections locally, and then we put an ad in Model Railroader for a father and son team, which that ad is still running. And we started to get some collections, both plastic and brass, and we really made progress. I moved from the second bedroom in our house to my parents' garage, and then we ended up building a little barn-like structure on our property where we would work out of and run the business from. And of course, being a model railroader at heart, the upstairs of that building was designated for my model railroad. And you can see a picture here of where I'm working on that with these big mountains. Again, I had a lot to learn about how to build a proper model railroad, but had a lot of fun doing that. Now, this next series of photos, what you'll see is kind of another phase of our business. I was very enamored with craftsman kits. I loved to build them. We were buying and selling them. And so we met a local architect who was really an excellent modeler. And we talked to him about starting up a line of kits. And so we produced what became to be known as the Frenchie Gratz collection. And so here you can see my father and I and Frenchie working at the computer, doing design. We were working at the laser cutter. We had to put together the instruction manual, do all the photos. And so that was an interesting time. It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it took a devastating turn. My father tragically and completely unexpectedly passed away. Our business faced some bumps, you could say, at that time. I was now having to finance all these collections. My father was an excellent businessman, so I missed his steadying force. But we kept plugging. It remained a family business. And you'll see some photos here of another phase in our business, which we talked about earlier, Roland and I, when we produced the Brass Train Guidebook. So that was quite a chore. You can see here I put my boys to work, even though they were young at the time and probably will not enjoy these photos. We were packing those books like crazy and shipping them all out, thousands of them. And so that was kind of an exciting time in our business. My mom, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law all worked for me. You can see in a photo there my father-in-law packing those books as well. Now, part of reminiscing, what I want to share, some things I found very interesting when it comes to brass model trains and the hobby in general, is first of all, there's a huge diversity. As I've bought hundreds, perhaps thousands of collections from such a wide array of individuals who loved this hobby, and some had small collections, some large collections. And so there's an incredible diversity here. But beyond that, we've been fortunate enough to be featured in magazines like Entrepreneur, or at a time, many books that were being produced on how you can start an eBay business. And so even when we would talk to folks that had apparently no interest in the model train hobby, there was always an interest in trains. There's always a story of somebody in their life who collected trains or trains they rode. We see the same thing at our shop today. If somebody comes in and maybe they don't seem to have any interest in trains, but then they start looking at the museum and learning what goes into brass trains, in particular the craftsmanship and the artisans, and they just become fascinated both with miniatures and model trains. And so we feel a big reason that Monday Morning Express has been successful is because there is this broad diversity and interest in both trains and miniatures. So we're very happy for the years that we've had, productive years in a growing business. I'm very thankful to all the support that I've been given from family and friends and customers throughout the years. And so thanks for taking this little time to reminisce with me.
Welcome to another How To with Hal. In this particular series, which is going to take us a little time here, Hal, we're going to talk about stripping a brass model train, painting it, decaling it, the whole works, right?
I'm ready.
You're ready. So what we wanted to do at the outset here is we have our little paint booth. We just want to mention some of the basic things that are required to be able to do a project such as this. Now, we have our two models here. We have our Class A model, right? And this is the one that you're going to be painting, right. And I'll take care of the other Great Northern, the C1 there, right? Okay, so we'll take care of that. We're going to show how to do all of that and the reason why, even if one is unpainted, why we still need to strip the model down. Some of the other things we're going to talk about is the use of lacquer thinner as a stripper, and also the use of aircraft remover as a stripper. And we'll get into that as we develop these segments. Some of the things that are also useful tools is obviously our hemostats, our little brushes for being able to apply the aircraft remover, right? And you got other brushes here. So those are some of the things that we're going to look at in the next segment here as far as stripping the models. And also some of the other tools. Our Badger airbrush. You happen to like the Badger, right?
I've been using that since 1977.
Not this one.
Not that one. I've got about 4 or 5 of them at the house.
And the difference between the Badger and Pache, or Posh, however they say, Pache.
I had one Pache and it was an external mix.
Yeah.
Don't paint brass trains with external mix because
Okay.
the paint doesn't come. That's good for painting t-shirts.
Yeah. And it's also the difference between a single and a double action, right?
Yeah. The thing I don't like about I think the 150 is a double action. Mm-hmm. The stop, there's a set screw where you can control the flow. It controls the minimal flow, which you can't mess up an engine if you don't get enough paint.
Okay.
But when you pull back on it, there was no stop. And when I tried it one time, I pulled back and I got too much paint on the model and got to run. So I just threw it back in the cabinet and went back to my 200.
Okay, so we're going to see how and why you like this one as we develop these series. We also just wanted to highlight our paint booth here. We've got our filtration system in the back. It's nice that in this particular building we hear very little of the air. That's because it's got a big vacuum that actually pulls it outside, so that's great. We've got our air line. We need that. You also mentioned as far as using the Badger airbrush. Now down here in Florida, we've got a lot of humidity.
Yes.
So you like to spray with nitrogen, right?
Yeah, I have nitrogen at home.
Okay.
When I was living in Palm Harbor, I was painting a no-scale model out in the garage with a Badger with a large tip. And I was putting out the paint, and I had just my regular air compressor. And I noticed some blushing in the paint, which is moisture. So I went to nitrogen. Also, you can get these little oilless compressors.
Yes, yes.
I call those bilge pumps. They pump the water out of the air and put it in your paint.
Yeah.
And you can put moisture traps, but
Right.
that traps the visible water.
Yeah.
The humidity's still there.
Right,
So that's
right.
why I go to nitrogen.
Okay, so that's good for us here in Florida. Individual wants to use it. I think it's like about $30 to fill this tank,
Yeah, to
right?
fill the tank.
So it's not bad at all.
And I own my tank, but when I go down to fill it, they just exchange tanks. And that way the testing on it is always current.
Very good. Okay, excellent. Some of the other things, obviously our paints. Now we happen to have a few different varieties here. We've got Scale Coat, we've got Star Brand, we've also got True Color. Now I know you like to spray with Scale Coat, and so we'll go ahead and spray with that when we do these particular models, and I know that there's differences between them. A couple of these dry faster than the Scale Coat. Scale Coat, as you're going to explain when we go through it, why you feel that it's a better one to use. Okay.
I started out with flow quail. I started
Yeah.
out with model airplane dope.
Boy, we're speaking of shorts, stripping, dope. I don't know. It's another show.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Okay. We've got our airline, and then we also have our oven, right? See, so we'll go ahead and show how we go and bake a model. All right, so we'll show that in the next episode when we get ready to do that. But that's just some of the tools. And of course, we don't want to forget our safety gear. Now we've got our gloves, and we'll explain a little bit about which ones we use and how different chemicals can affect different types of gloves.
This is probably a medical exam glove. And I put some of the
Aircraft remover on it.
aircraft remover on it.
Ouch.
Eats a hole in it.
Yeah.
Now, another bad thing about these gloves, you're handling your model, you got a little corner here from the coupler lift bar, catches in the glove, and you pull the model away, part of it stays in the glove.
Yep.
I do my painting at home in my kitchen sink, which is stainless steel, and I've got a strainer in the bottom in case any parts come off. And I don't use rubber gloves. I hold the model with hemostat or
Sure.
put a wooden tube or metal tube down the ball and screw it.
Okay.
Some people, if you're clumsy and you want to maybe go to your rubber glove.
Yeah, a little harder gloves. Okay, so we'll explain that too. And by the way, my wife won't let me do mine in the kitchen sink. I don't know why, but she won't.
Gee. Oh, one more thing.
Yes.
Kitchen countertops.
Yeah.
Mine is granite. This is not going to hurt the granite. There
The
are
aircraft
some,
remover.
we talked about
Maybe
it
Corian
earlier.
or something like that.
There's
yeah.
a poured surface. This will damage it.
Okay. So definitely things to be careful of and be mindful of when we're doing that.
If you're going to do this in the kitchen, just get you a big cookie sheet, or
Right.
I use a plate, and I got a cookie sheet
Sure,
also,
sure.
depending on what I'm doing.
Okay. And then the other things is, we worry about ventilation, mask. We're going to get into all of that. Glasses, protective wear, where we need it, where perhaps we can get away with not needing it, okay? So we look forward to that. Let's go ahead and get into our project. Now, what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and take these models apart to get them ready to be stripped.
What I'm going to do on this little switcher here, anything that's plastic is going to come off.
Got to remove it.
I'm going to take the plastic brake shoes off. I've already taken the coupler off. I'll take the boiler off the chassis and the tender shell off the floor of the tender. And I'm even going to leave the trucks on there.
Okay.
I ain't going to take them off.
Okay.
And the insulators on these Tenshoto models, this stripper is not going to hurt them.
Okay. Very
Matter
good.
of fact, in all my years of stripping, I've never damaged a set of insulators yet.
Okay. Excellent. All right, so those are some nice little techniques and tips that we'll look forward to.
One more thing on your Rust-Oleum. There's a lot of strippers out there that are strong as this. They'll do the job, but they're not water rinsable. Some of them were designed for taking finish off furniture. You can't put water, so they don't make them water rinsable. You got to wipe it off. I think the stuff that you buy at one of the other stores is not water rinsable. You get water on there, it gums up. It'll come off with enough pressure.
Right. Okay.
But this works the best.
Excellent. All right, well, we look forward to getting into that, so let's go ahead and start taking these models apart, okay?
Okay.
Hi, I'm Bob Darwin at the SJH spread in Carmel Valley, California, and this is Monday Morning Express.
How they really honor craftsmen?
In Japan, very skillful craftsman always admired. Every craftsman also proud of such business. So they always try for the more better skill. The quality rised up and up.
There's a story about Goto models that he never wanted to finish the models. So he would frustrate the importers because he always wanted to make them better and better and better.
There's some very nice models produced.
And one happiness was Chematron or CAD scales came to provide very good lost wax parts for Japanese glass models for exporting. Around 1952 or 53, they could use very good American-made lost wax parts. So the quality suddenly became higher than before.
So we started seeing more details on the locomotives and crisper castings.
Yes. Before that period, for example, headlights are very simple tube type, but suddenly they could use very sharp lost wax parts by Chematron. And Mr. Ryan of Pacific Fast Mail first used so many brass lost wax parts for their products. So Mr. Ryan's models were welcomed by U.S. customer in early later of 1940 or early 1960. PFM became top of importers.
Right.
And even taking it forward to end of the 2000s, Sofui-san still insisted on using American castings. He would make the patterns for it, and then he would send the castings to CalScale, and they did all of his castings.
Interesting.
He didn't. He only wanted CalScale castings. He made the patterns, but he loved their workmanship on the castings. They were so crisp and clean. And right to the end, he used CalScale castings.
And he's a wonderful craftsman.
Yeah, he was the last man standing, pretty much so.
Right.
Yeah.
So did the builders sometimes get together and compare each other's work? And
Oh yes, it is somewhat strange. Sometimes they went to cooperate, but sometimes very competitive.
yeah, right.
Good answer.
But that made them want to do even better
Yes.
work, right?
Yeah.
And so we all benefited from that.
Well, it was also interesting, like I say, when Dave and I go to Japan, that we only met them one at a time separately.
Right.
And even drinking at night, it was only one of them.
Right.
Tenshodo and United and Tetsudo Mokesha probably always friendly.
Okay.
But between Katsumiya and Tenshodo was very competitive.
Okay, very competitive, sure.
Hitachi did mainly the wheels and stuff. The most important part and the best part. So they always wanted him to make the best for them right away.
That's how they got the orders filled.
Exactly.
And made more money.
But he was the key man.
Right. Now, many of these Japanese models, I think with the exception of Tenshodo, came unpainted.
They could get, hope to get the order area faster.
Okay.
And cheaper.
Right. So they didn't want to pay or wait for the time it would take to paint those models. So like now Tenshodo, many of those came what we would call factory painted.
Yes, maybe they had one reason they originally had a customer in GI officers.
Right.
They always request painting their orders. So Tenshodo has had good painters, paint factory as a subcontractor. And they also sell their products into the Japanese market. So Japanese market also likes factory painted model. And some builders like Tetsudo Mokeisha, they also they proud of their skill in soldering. So they like
to show it off.
Right.
They didn't want to hide it.
I like seeing it that way myself, to be honest.
Fujiyama was that way. He didn't like to paint anything.
Right. And they do. You can see the craftsmanship more.
So in my boyhood, when we visited Tetsudo Mokeisha, Mr. Torigai, owner of Tetsudo Mokeisha, ordered us wash your hands first before touching anything.
At least he let you touch them.
Yes, because on the showcase, they put so many brass models before shipping. So we would like to see more detail. So we would like to touch.
Yeah.
So he always ordered us, now wash your hand first.
That's good practice today too. So did you have the ability to purchase many of those models when you were young, or did you just look at them?
Tenshodo, no, we could buy.
Okay.
But Tetsudo Mokeisha or Tsubomi, most models were not for sale to Japanese.
They were
going to the imports.
Yes. So I know many models for exporting at the time, but we could not get. So after long years after, I buy those memorial models from the hobby shop in the United States.
Come back to Japan.
Yes. For example, I remember the observation car of Oregon Electric. That was made by Tsubomi. And in a Tsubomi shop, in the showcase, there was only one sample. And I asked them, please sell me this, but not for sale, not for sale, again and again. And it took 35 years till I at last could get some model.
Yeah. And that had to feel good when you finally got it.
This had the style of a booth. Since it's a sleeper, the sleepers had a booth style seat like this.
Wait, those things hit you hard.
Yeah, man. Okay. All righty. So the booths would be placed in here with the line in the center.
Okay.
Just like that. And they can be glued in place.
Nice.
If you were doing a chair car, you're going to do the same exact thing. Just start marking dead center. Or I sometimes scribe this line right here, because now you have to fit a couple of seats in between. So Michael, let me grab this row. So the back of the seat will, I don't know if you can see it. The back of the seat.
Yeah.
It starts off with it. So,
Very nice.
and you just glue it right on here. So once I get my seat patterns where that's got to go, I'll get this and start punching down the center. And the reason is I go down. These are my gripping points where with a needle nose, I can go there and push in the interior all through the whole bottom of the car. So once I got these little holes done, I will lay it on top of the car. See the bottom. Now I got to mark where the bolsters have to come up, because when you put the bottom of the car, now it's going to start pushing up on that plastic. So this is right around this area. After this, start punching out this. So that should lay in there. Well, it looks like there's washers and stuff. Let me just make these holes a little bit bigger. It's the center of the aisle, so don't worry about the size. It's our prime concern are the edges, and the bolsters are in the center, so we should be okay.
Nothing's gonna interfere with that. Yeah.
Yeah, just like
so
that.
you want it to clear it so it stays nice and flat on there.
Yes.
Very good.
Where the bolsters come up, because when we push the car up, we don't want the seats to rise. That's going to be on the level part. And the reason I did all these holes on there, that's so we can grab it. You know, I can grab it with this, with all the seats on there, and put it inside the car like this. You know, you get it in there, and then you start pulling back on it.
Okay.
When you have glue, your glue is going to go. For example, here is the rail where the floor bottom, where your bottom screws to. We're going to put glue on this side, on the opposite side.
Got it.
And that's where I put that contact cement. Just put it in there, let it dry. You want to really let it get it dry, because you don't want to go in there with wet glue. If you get your seats, now you got spider webs all over the place in there. So, yeah, you're going to put with the holes, you will put your interior in, pull back on it.
Right.
Oops. Pull back on it, and then it'll stick. I don't have any glue.
Very nice.
But see, as we go,
just like that,
and just start putting you could put your tweezers in there and just pull down. You know, just so
because you're pulling it against this edge.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
Very
Try
nice.
doing that without any holds, and you're like, how am I going to get my contact? Right. You know. So, and then you'll have all your seats in there. Your seats, and so now we have to worry about our aisleway. So some of these, I do again get this. Listen up. So I loosen up, drop down the shaft, and then I will drop this inside the car and push down, and that'll give me the height of the aisleway. You know, just by pushing down at this angle. Let me go down a little bit more. Lock it in. So here's a divider for the car. This is going to be the wall along the aisle.
Yeah. You know, so many times previously we haven't seen importers sometimes doing this. You know, you don't want to see all the way through like that. So that
exactly.
Yeah. Very important.
So with the wall, you can secure it on here. You know, you can glue it down here, so that'll give you the wall while your seats are on this side. Sometimes there's not enough room, so I will, with a piece of plastic like this, an angled plastic, I will be sure to give yourself a long piece of plastic, because what happens over time, if you don't have that support down there grabbing on, it will warp on you. Right. So you want to glue them together like this, where you get some kind of, and then just drop it there. Put the glue right here on this seam, and you're going to already have this glued together. You just drop that in there, and it's going to give you the wall. So here, let me drop some glue. And
by the way, so the glue you're using is this plastic?
Plastic, yeah. Just this stuff, it's not the super thin. You want a glue that's going to take a while to dry. I mean, not that long, but it's still, because by the time I hit the other end, I don't want it to be dried already. So, yeah. And this stuff is strong, too.
Yeah, I smell it.
Party time. So, I will get this section on. So now, in theory, I have, whoops, let me drop a little bit. See, that's what I talk about the glue drying so fast.
Because it kind of bonds it, doesn't it, right there?
Yeah.
It's that plastic bond.
Just drop a little bit more. So with this, you just drop it in place. Right there. And then if you're looking at upside down, now you have a divider.
Right.
You're not going to look down the side of the car. So, like when you drop your parts in the car is kind of curved at the bottom. So you may have to put some pieces of plastic underneath this section right here. Since it's at a curve, since the floor is a curve, put some pieces of plastic on the outer edge to kind of keep your wall level going straight up. And so what I do with this, I just get Krylon makes paint that's safe for plastics. And your best bet is to get like pastels, like a tan or the lime green, or I mean not lime green, but they make a soft green. The blues, the baby blues, and the grays. Those are colors that were often found in passenger cars. And you spray them, and after they're dry, you just drop it in, and now you have a partition. Yeah,
very nice.
And then you can come in with your floor and at an angle and pull it up, and voila.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
And the same thing goes for diners. If you have to do a diner, a dome, you can come in with your dome, and now, oops, these don't have Velcro on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can come in here with your dome. Right there.
So we can really jazz these things up.
Yeah, with all these little parts, you can make all kinds of stuff.
And you can just keep adding to it with your tables and everything else.
Yes,
You got your
after you got your dining room
here.
tables, your dining room tables, just drop these things
Excellent.
right there. Can't seem to find. There's just so many things. I mean, for business cars, for tail cars, lounges.
Yeah.
Here's the tables right here.
Okay.
These little tables right here are great for these decals to go on there.
Beautiful. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that certainly helps us. We appreciate it, Boyd. Just some of the little tips and tricks here that you've given us that show us really how to make these beauties. Some, like you mentioned, some of the ones we might have sitting in the closet, no interiors whatsoever.
Yeah, let's
But
do something.
Just a little bit of work, we can bring them to life. All right. Well, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Alrighty.
Next week on Monday Morning Express, Sounding Off with Scott continues. Learn tips and tricks about installing a DCC decoder in a brass locomotive. Boyd Reyes takes us to Branson, Missouri for the 25th anniversary of the Branson Scenic Railway. Bob Darwin gives Dan and Roland a tour of his famous workshop. You'll learn practical tips for maximizing your own workshop space.